Off our discussion tonight is Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff of California. He is the outgoing chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and was a member of the January 6th Select Committee. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Congressman Schiff. The first thing I want to try to understand here was how you got not just to an adjournment at the end of that third vote, but it was a unanimous voice vote for adjournment. There was one no vote from the back of the room. Was that something that was wired by both sides during the time it took to count up that vote tally that was then announced by the clerk? Because immediately after she announced that vote tally, Republican Tom Cole moved for adjournment, and it was unanimous. How did that come about?
Well, Lawrence, I think it's, as you were saying, the clerk, in the absence of a speaker, has a lot of authority, and the clerk very quickly moved that motion to adjourn, and there was no opposition, and so we adjourned. She has been citing precedent that often goes back decades or maybe even more than 100 years in the conduct of her office. I'm sure she has the parliamentarians assisting her, but we are kind of uncharted territory. On the floor, for example, members are taking photos and videos. And why are we allowed to do that when you normally can't? Because there are no rules yet. So we're in a kind of uncharted territory. But what was so striking to me, Lawrence, is here you have the Democrats, far more diverse party in every respect, but united behind a single person, Hakeem Jeffries, unanimous, and not just unanimous, but with a great deal of warmth and respect for him. And then you just had that circus act on the other side of the aisle. I think part of the problem that McCarthy is having is because he doesn't stand for anything, because he has no core set of convictions, he doesn't have the respect of his members. And so, as you say, he won't be mourned if he fails in this bid or if he succeeds and later fails because he hasn't developed a following. The only one who truly, I think, probably identifies with him is George Santos, who respects him as a fellow traveler when it comes to his lack of adherence to the truth.
Let me just go back to the adjournment point for a second. We just heard the voice vote. Did all the Democrats vote for that adjournment? Because there was a lot of discussion on television while in the slower parts of the day about the strategies on adjourning or not adjourning. Who does it help? Will it help Kevin McCarthy if they adjourn? Will the Democrats vote for adjournment in order to help Kevin McCarthy? So was that a surprise motion by Tom Cole, who's a Kevin McCarthy loyalist, that the Democrats didn't even vote on? Was that voice vote just entirely a Republican vote?
It was a surprise that they moved to adjourn, and frankly, the clerk gaveled it so quickly. I'm not sure that it prompted any debate. Again, demonstrating that the clerk, holds the gavel and can make those decisions and doesn't have to leave it open for much debate. So that moved very quickly. Whether it helps them or hurts them, I don't know. I suppose if we stayed, there'd be more votes and more failure, but eventually I think they would have moved to adjourn. I have to think that what will happen tomorrow is one of two things. Either McCarthy will have cut some kind of a deal with these rebellious members of his conference, or they'll have several other votes that he will fail, and then they will have another adjournment where they'll have to consider nominating someone else.
We did see 3 votes in a row in which Hakeem Jeffries got the most votes, but this is one of those elections where the person with the most votes doesn't necessarily win. This one has to be a majority, according to the rules of the House. At some point, those 20 are either going to become 4. If they become 4 and 16 move over to Kevin McCarthy, then he becomes Speaker. But if they don't move, we continue doing this. And as I said, and as history tells us, there is no deadline for this. Can you see anything on the Republican side that will make for something different to happen tomorrow?
I don't know if it'll happen tomorrow, but I can see over time the embarrassment factor, the disgrace, the degree to which they're showing the American people how dysfunctional they are, how they can't govern. that the cost of that will go up every hour, every day, and eventually someone will capitulate. Either those rebellious members will capitulate. That's some deal. They'll take to the floor Schiff as he did today, and say, "We brought this issue to the public's attention. We did what we set out to do." Or the Republicans will capitulate and drop McCarthy. The broader Republican conference will capitulate. One of those two things is going to have to give. But I think every day and every hour, the cost of their dysfunction before the American people will probably shame them into doing something. The problem, Lawrence, is if they have this much trouble just picking a speaker, how are they going to govern after this? This is supposed to be the easy part. For 100 years, it has been the easy part. If they can't even do this, what hope is there for their ability to run the chamber?
Is it going to get worse for Kevin McCarthy after this, just on the assumption that he actually ends up with the votes for Speaker? Will he look back on these days as the easier days?
Well, it's hard to look back on this failure today, this historic failure, as an easier day. But, if he's capitulated on allowing any 5 of those 20 people to call a vote at any time to dethrone him from the speakership, then he's going to constantly be at their beck and call. It's what drove Boehner out. It's what drove Ryan out. I've been trying to debate is, Kevin McCarthy's lack of a core set of values, lack of adherence to truth. Is that an asset in the Republican conference, given that their party leader, Donald Trump, has no devotion to truth? I don't know. We're finding out today it was not an asset. But I also think in the long term, it's not an asset either. People don't respect him because he doesn't stand for anything except for himself. And you don't last very long that way.
Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you very much for leading off our discussion tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Coming up, George Santos.